During my 70th birthday dinner, I played a recording that revealed how my daughter-in-law had spent 6 months convincing everyone I was going senile so she could steal my house. I smiled as I announced my new will. 48 missed calls that night. Too late. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The turkey went into the oven at noon, just like I'd done every Christmas for 43 years. My house in Calgary smelled like sage and roasting meat, and through the kitchen window, December snow fell in thick, lazy flakes. Daniel and Amanda weren't due until 3, which gave me plenty of time to finish the Brussels sprouts and set the table the way Margaret used to do it, before the cancer took her 5 years ago. The doorbell rang at 1:30. I checked the clock twice, certain I'd misread it. Through the front door's beveled glass, I could see 2 figures. When I opened it, Amanda stood there with that practiced smile she wore whenever she wanted something. Daniel behind her, holding a wine bottle like it was a shield. "Surprise, Dad. We came early to help." She kissed my cheek, already pushing past me into the hallway. "Thought you might need an extra hand with everything." "You didn't have to do that." I reached for their coats. "Let me hang those up for you." "Oh, we'll keep them on." Amanda glanced at Daniel, something quick and loaded passing between them. "It's a bit chilly in here, don't you think? The thermostat okay?" It wasn't chilly. I kept it at 22 degrees, same as always. "Mind if I use the washroom, Dad?" Daniel's voice sounded strained. That drive from Brentwood always gets me. "Sure, son, you know where it is." He disappeared upstairs while Amanda followed me into the kitchen, immediately launching into questions about cooking times and ingredient measurements. She'd never cared about my recipes before. Her hands fluttered near the cutting board, picking up the wooden spoon, setting it down, adjusting the salt shaker. Nervous energy radiated from her in waves. Above us, floorboards creaked. Not in the bathroom, in the hallway. Then in what sounded like the master bedroom, then the spare room. Then Margaret's old sewing room that I'd kept exactly as she left it. "Dad," Amanda positioned herself directly in my line of sight to the doorway. "This turkey looks huge. Are you sure you can handle lifting it out later? Your back's been bothering you, hasn't it?" My back was fine. I'd told them that last month when Amanda brought it up during Sunday dinner. More footsteps overhead, moving from room to room. A closet door opened, then closed. I heard Daniel's voice, muffled but audible, talking to someone. Not himself. He was on the phone. "I need to grab something from upstairs." I set down my basting brush. "Keep an eye on that timer for me?" I took the stairs slowly, not because I needed to, but because something in my gut told me to move quietly. The third step from the top still creaked after 40 years in this house. I knew which boards to avoid. At the landing, Daniel's voice drifted from the master bedroom, clearer now. "Yeah, Mom, it's perfect." His voice carried that excited edge I hadn't heard since he was a kid on Christmas morning. 3 bedrooms up here, finished basement with a proper bar. Dad's got no idea what it's worth now. Realtor I talked to said minimum 1.2 million in this market. My hand gripped the banister. The wood felt solid under my palm, anchoring me to something real while the world tilted sideways. Amanda found a place, continuing care facility in the northwest. Silvercrest Manor. $3,800 a month, everything included. Way cheaper than those fancy downtown ones. His footsteps moved around my bedroom. "Once we're not paying rent on our place, we can easily cover it. Plus, his pension and CPP should kick in enough to help." My heart hammered against my ribs. The hallway seemed to narrow, sounds becoming too sharp. I heard him say something about the kitchen needing updates, about the neighborhood appreciating 12% annually, about Amanda already having paint colors picked out for the living room. I descended the stairs before he could discover me. Each step measured, silent, my body moving on autopilot, while my brain struggled to process what I'd heard. In the kitchen, Amanda was examining the wine glasses, holding one up to the light like she was inspecting her future crystal. "Find what you needed?" Her voice sounded far away, coming through water. Changed my mind. I turned back to the turkey. Wasn't important. She studied my face for a moment. "You look a bit pale, Robert. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you should sit down." "Just the heat from the oven." Daniel returned 15 minutes later, settling into the kitchen chair like he already owned it. "This is a great house, Dad. You've really kept it up well. Must be worth quite a bit these days." I manage. Dinner became a performance I watched from outside my own body. Amanda touched my arm repeatedly, called me Dad, with emphatic warmth that rang false as a cracked bell. She expressed concern about me managing this big house alone, about the stairs, about whether I remembered to take my blood pressure medication. Each gesture felt rehearsed, choreographed for an audience of one. Daniel complimented the wainscoting, the updated furnace, the way the dining room caught afternoon light. He spoke about the house the way real estate agents do, cataloging assets and calculating equity. "Have you ever thought about downsizing, Dad?" Amanda cut her turkey into precise squares. "Something more manageable. There are wonderful retirement communities now. My friend's father moved into one, and he absolutely loves it. All his meals prepared, activities, people his own age. Haven't thought about it. Well, you know Daniel and I are always here if you need help with anything. Anything at all. We worry about you rattling around in all this space alone." I chewed slowly, watching her performance. She'd never been good at lying. When she and Daniel first started dating 15 years ago, she'd lied about her age, her job history, her previous marriages. Daniel had been too smitten to notice, but I'd caught the inconsistencies immediately. She was overselling now, her concern pitched too high, landing wrong. They left at 7. Amanda hugged me, longer than necessary. "Love you, Dad. Call us if you need anything. We're here for you, always." The door closed behind them. I stood in the hallway, listening to their Lexus start, pull away, disappear into the snowy evening. Then I walked through each room they'd examined, seeing it through their eyes. The living room where Amanda had already chosen paint colors. The master bedroom they'd mentally converted into their own. The basement bar Daniel had claimed in his mind. I sat at the dining table, surrounded by dishes and half-empty wine glasses. The turkey carcass looked like something archaeological, stripped and abandoned. Outside, darkness pressed against the windows, and snow continued falling, covering their tire tracks in the driveway. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Daniel's voice. "Dad's got no idea what it's worth now." And that easy laugh when he talked about the nursing home budget. $3,800 a month. They'd done the math, planned it out, decided my future without asking me. Morning light found me at the kitchen table, still wearing yesterday's clothes, a mug of coffee gone cold between my hands. I'd watched night fade through the window like time-lapse photography, my mind cycling through disbelief, hurt, rage, and finally arriving somewhere colder, clearer. On the mantel, a photo showed Daniel at 12, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up a model bridge we'd built together for his school science fair. I remembered that entire weekend, just the two of us in the garage, working with balsa wood and glue while Margaret brought us sandwiches. After she died, I'd worked extra overtime at the engineering firm to help Daniel with his mortgage down payment. Paid for Emma and Lucas's daycare when Amanda decided to become a wellness coach. Co-signed their line of credit when their own credit wasn't good enough. My chest felt tight, but my hands had stopped shaking somewhere around dawn. The phone rang Friday afternoon. Daniel's name lit up the screen. "Hey, Dad. Just checking in on you. Amanda mentioned you seemed tired on Christmas. Everything okay?" "I'm fine, son. Are the stairs getting difficult? I noticed you were moving a bit slower." I hadn't been moving slower. "They're fine." "Well, I was just thinking. That house is a lot for one person. Maybe we should talk about your options at some point." "No pressure. Just want to make sure you're safe." "I'll think about it." Good. Love you, Dad." He called again Sunday evening. "Dad, Amanda was telling me about these new retirement communities. They're not like the old places. Really nice amenities. Gyms, libraries, medical staff on site. Some people your age really thrive in that environment. Haven't given it much thought. Just want you to be comfortable and safe. That's all we care about." Tuesday's call mentioned a colleague whose father moved to assisted living and was much happier. Wednesday's call brought up a news story about elderly people falling on stairs. Each conversation followed the same script, the same gentle pressure disguised as concern. I responded with variations of "I'm managing, and I'll consider it." giving nothing away. They were laying groundwork, preparing me to accept the inevitable, making me believe it would be my own decision. I didn't use my home computer. Instead, I drove to the Central Library downtown, found a quiet study carrel, and spent 4 days researching Alberta property law. Page after page of statutes and case precedents filled my notebook in engineer's handwriting, precise and measured. Sole ownership meant complete authority. No co-signers, no joint tenancy, no claims from adult children. The house was mine. Purchased in 1981, mortgage paid off in 2004. Title clear. I could sell it tomorrow if I wanted, transfer it, burn it down. Didn't need permission from anyone. I learned about wills and estate planning, power of attorney versus executor, how to change beneficiaries, the difference between specific bequests and residual estates, Alberta's Wills and Succession Act, section by section. On Thursday, I made an appointment with an attorney, Catherine Morrison, found through the Law Society directory. No personal connections, nobody who knew my family. Her office occupied the 20th floor of a downtown tower, all glass and polished oak. Mr. Thompson. She shook my hand, gestured to a leather chair. Mid-50s, silver-streaked hair, eyes that had seen every variety of family dispute. You mentioned estate planning questions on the phone. I opened my notebook, turned to the page where I'd written my questions in neat columns. I want to change my will. Current beneficiary is my son. I'd like to explore other options. She leaned back, fingers steepled. That's certainly your right. May I ask, what's prompting this change? I told her everything. The Christmas conversation I'd overheard, the nursing home budget they'd calculated, the 6 months of increasingly obvious manipulation that I'd started noticing now that I knew what to look for, Amanda's comments about my memory at Thanksgiving, Daniel's suggestion I should stop driving at night after I'd had no problems whatsoever, the way they'd been building a narrative of decline that didn't exist. Catherine took notes without judgment. When I finished, she set down her pen. Mr. Thompson, you're describing elder financial abuse, even though it hasn't succeeded yet. The law protects you completely here. Your estate is yours to distribute as you see fit. What are my options? You can disinherit your son entirely. You can leave him a nominal amount. $1 is traditional, which actually prevents him from claiming you forgot to include him. You can create a trust for your grandchildren that neither parent can access. You can designate charities. The possibilities are extensive. I want to make sure they can't contest it. With proper documentation and clear mental capacity, which you obviously have, contestation is extremely difficult in Alberta. We'll include a no contest clause. Anyone who challenges the will gets nothing, even if they were named as a beneficiary. We spent 2 hours drafting a new will. Detailed, specific, leaving no room for misinterpretation. When we finished, Catherine had me sign it in front of 2 witnesses she called in from her office, neither of whom knew me or my family. One more thing, I said as I prepared to leave. I'd like to record some conversations. For evidence. Is that legal in Alberta? She smiled slightly. Alberta is a one-party consent province. If you're part of the conversation, you can record it without informing the other parties. I'd recommend keeping detailed notes about dates, times, and contexts as well. I left her office with a leather folder containing my new will and a small digital recorder she'd sold me from her own supply. The snow had stopped, and the winter sun cut sharp angles between the buildings. Everything felt clearer now, crystallized by decision. Back home, I began my performance. I started leaving mail scattered on the kitchen counter. A few bills unopened. Nothing important, just junk mail and flyers, but arranged to look chaotic. I wore the same shirt 2 days in a row, something Margaret would never have let me do. When Amanda and Daniel came for Sunday dinner, I paused mid-sentence while talking about the weather. What was I saying? I let my eyes unfocus for a moment. The weather, Dad. Amanda leaned forward, concern sharp in her voice. You were talking about the snow forecast. Right, the snow. Supposed to get another 10 centimeters tonight. I touched my lower back when I stood to clear plates, released a small sigh that carried across the quiet dining room. The recorder in my shirt pocket captured everything. Over coffee, I mentioned the furnace. Made this banging noise last week. Repair fellow charged $300 just to look at it. Can you believe that? $300. That's terrible, Dad. Daniel exchanged a look with Amanda. Maybe we should start helping you with some of this stuff. Maintenance, bills, that sort of thing. I've been thinking about that. I let reluctance show in my voice. This house is getting to be a lot. All these stairs, all these rooms. Maybe you two were right about those retirement places. Their eyes brightened, like slot machines hitting jackpot. Really, Dad? You'd consider it? I'll think about it seriously. After they left, I sat in my armchair with the lights off, playing back the recording. Amanda's voice came through clearly. We should move fast on this. Get him into Silvercrest before he changes his mind. Once he's settled in, we can list the house. Daniel's response. I'll call the realtor tomorrow. Have him do a proper evaluation. We need to know exactly what we're working with. I saved the file with that day's date and started a new one for next time. 2 weeks before my birthday, Amanda suggested I tour Silvercrest Manor. Just to look, Dad. No commitment. Daniel will drive us. The facility sprawled across 3 acres in the northwest. Single-story buildings arranged around a courtyard with covered walkways. Inside, it smelled like industrial cleaner and overcooked vegetables. A staff member named Jennifer led us through narrow hallways, showing us a studio suite. 240 square feet, bathroom with grab bars, kitchenette that was really just a microwave and mini fridge. Window overlooking the parking lot. Everything's included, Jennifer chirped. 3 meals daily in the dining hall, housekeeping, medication management, activities. You'd have complete peace of mind. I asked appropriate questions about meal times, laundry services, visiting hours. Amanda and Daniel stood behind me, watching, trying to read acceptance in my posture. The recorder in my pocket captured it all. In the common room, residents sat in rows of chairs facing a television playing a game show at painful volume. An elderly woman with clouded eyes leaned close when Jennifer turned away to answer Daniel's question about costs. Don't come here if you have any other choice. Her whisper barely reached me. They control everything. When you eat, what you watch, when family can visit, you stop being yourself. I nodded slightly, kept my expression neutral. Back in the car, I spoke carefully. It's adequate. I'll think about it. Really, Dad? Amanda twisted in her seat, unable to hide her excitement. You'd seriously consider it? I said I'll think about it. That was enough. They exchanged a look that said everything. Relief, triumph, greed, poorly disguised. When they dropped me home, I watched from my living room window as they celebrated in the driveway. Daniel actually pumped his fist. Amanda was already on her phone, texting someone, both their faces glowing with victory. They believed they'd won. Over the next month, I noticed things. Small things that made sense now that I knew what to look for. My neighbor Tom mentioned he'd seen Daniel and Amanda at the house one afternoon when I was out. They'd had an older couple with them, showing them around the yard, pointing at the roof, walking the property line like they were conducting a home inspection. The spare key I kept in the garage had been moved. Not much, just enough that I noticed. I'd kept it on the second hook. Now it hung on the third. I found a business card in the recycling bin. Craig Matheson, real estate agent. Written on the back in Daniel's handwriting. Estimated value, 1-2 M. Quick sale possible. They weren't waiting for me to agree. They were already making plans. Already counting my money. Already dividing my possessions and my life between them like I'd already signed everything over. I documented it all. Photographs, notes, recordings. Every conversation captured on the digital recorder. Every manipulation. Every false concern. Every calculated push toward Silvercrest Manor. 10 days before my birthday, I returned to Catherine Morrison's office. She reviewed everything I'd brought. The recordings, the photographs, my detailed timeline of their manipulation campaign. Mr. Thompson, this is textbook financial abuse, even though they haven't succeeded. These recordings are admissible as evidence, if needed. Your revised will is ironclad. She closed the folder. What you've documented here protects you completely. I want to do one more thing. I told her my plan for the birthday dinner. She listened without interrupting. And when I finished, she smiled slightly. That's certainly your right. Legally sound, if emotionally devastating for them. She pulled out a document. I'll draft a letter explaining the will changes and why you made them. You can read it at the dinner if you choose. Sometimes putting it in writing makes the message absolutely clear. That evening, I sent out invitations for my 70th birthday dinner. Daniel and Amanda, of course. Tom from next door and his wife Helen. My sister Linda, who lived in Edmonton. My old colleague Peter from the engineering firm. 8 people total. Enough witnesses for what I had planned. The morning of my birthday arrived with bright February sunshine that made the snow glitter like shattered glass. I spent the day cooking, the same menu I'd made for Christmas. Turkey, mashed potatoes, Brussels sprouts, Margaret's famous dinner rolls from her handwritten recipe. The house filled with familiar smells that reminded me of better times, before betrayal, before manipulation, before I'd learned what my son and his wife were really capable of. Daniel and Amanda arrived first, at exactly 5 o'clock. Amanda carried a wrapped present, something large and awkward. Daniel held a bottle of wine and a card. Both of them wore expressions of exaggerated cheer. Happy birthday, Dad. Amanda hugged me tightly. 70 years young. How are you feeling? Ready for your big announcement? My big announcement? About Silvercrest. Silly. She smiled, but something sharp glinted in her eyes. Daniel and I were talking, and we thought tonight would be perfect to tell everyone about your decision to move. Get everyone on the same page, you know? I smiled back, cold and measured. Oh, there'll be an announcement, don't you worry. The other guests arrived over the next 20 minutes. Linda with her husband Garrett, Tom and Helen bearing a homemade pie, Peter with a bottle of scotch and stories about the old days. They filled the house with warmth and laughter, reminding me why I'd fought so hard to protect myself. Dinner was perfect. The turkey carved beautifully, the potatoes smooth, the Brussels sprouts roasted just right with bacon and maple syrup. We ate and talked, catching up on months of news. Daniel dominated the conversation, telling everyone about his latest clients, his investment strategies, his plans for expansion. Amanda chimed in about her wellness coaching business, her growing social media following, her upcoming certification. Neither of them mentioned Silvercrest. They were waiting for me to bring it up, to make the announcement they'd scripted in their minds. After dessert, I stood and tapped my glass with a fork. The conversations died down. 8 faces turned toward me, expectant and warm. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. 70 years is a milestone, and it means a lot to have you here. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about the future, about my legacy, about what really matters. Daniel nodded, smiling. Amanda's hand found his under the table. Some of you know I've been considering changes, living arrangements, estate planning, that sort of thing. Daniel and Amanda have been very helpful, very concerned about my well-being. Amanda's smile widened. In fact, they've been so concerned that they've spent the last 6 months documenting what they believe is my declining mental capacity. I pulled the digital recorder from my pocket and set it on the table. The small device looked innocuous, barely larger than a lighter. They've been planning to move me into a continuing care facility called Silvercrest Manor, $3,800 a month. They'd already calculated they could afford it once they stopped paying rent, because they'd be living here, in my house. The color drained from Daniel's face. Amanda's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the dining room, tinny but clear from the Christmas recording. Dad's got no idea what it's worth now. Realtor I talked to said, minimum 1.2 million in this market. Then Amanda's voice from a later recording. We should move fast on this. Get him into Silvercrest before he changes his mind. Once he's settled in, we can list the house. I let 30 seconds of recordings play, watching Daniel and Amanda's faces cycle through shock, denial, panic, and finally something approaching terror. Around the table, my other guests sat frozen, processing what they were hearing. I stopped the recording. So yes, there will be an announcement about my future. I pulled out the letter Catherine had prepared. I've made some changes to my estate planning, my house, my savings, my investments. Everything I've worked for over 70 years will not be going to my son. Dad, Daniel's voice cracked. Let me explain. You don't understand. Amanda convinced me that you needed help. I thought I was doing the right thing. Amanda's head snapped toward him. Don't you dare put this on me. You were the one who found that nursing home. You were the one who contacted the realtor. Enough. My voice cut through their bickering. I don't care whose idea it was. You both participated. You both lied to me, manipulated me, documented false evidence of decline. You planned to warehouse me in a facility against my will so you could take my home? I opened the letter and began reading. My estate will be divided as follows. 50% will go to a trust fund for my grandchildren, Emma and Lucas, which they can access at age 25 for education or first home purchase. Neither parent will have any access or control over these funds. 30% will go to the Alzheimer's Society of Canada. 20% will go to the Calgary Food Bank. To my son Daniel and his wife Amanda, I leave $1 each, specifically to make clear that I have not forgotten them, but have deliberately chosen to exclude them from my estate. The silence in the room was absolute. Tom cleared his throat awkwardly. Linda's eyes were wet with tears. Peter stared into his scotch glass like it held answers. Furthermore, I continued, any attempt to contest this will result in automatic forfeiture of all bequests, including the $1 amounts. This is not anger, Daniel. This is not revenge. This is protection. You wanted to erase me, dispose of me, treat me like an inconvenient object in your way. I'm simply removing myself from your equation entirely. Dad, please. Daniel stood, his chair scraping against the hardwood. I made a mistake. Amanda made a mistake. We can fix this. We can start over. I'll do anything. You made your choice 6 months ago when you started planning my future without me. I made mine when I decided not to be your victim. I sat back down, suddenly tired. Dinner's over. I think it's time for you both to leave. Robert, Amanda's voice took on a pleading edge. Think about Emma and Lucas. They adore you. Don't punish them for our mistakes. I'm not punishing them. They're getting more than they ever would have under your management. But I won't be manipulated by using my grandchildren as emotional leverage. That's over. Daniel and Amanda left without another word, without taking their coats, stumbling out into the February cold like refugees. Through the window, I watched them argue in the driveway, Amanda pushing Daniel, Daniel shouting something I couldn't hear. Finally, they got in their Lexus and drove away, taillights disappearing into the snowy night. My remaining guests sat in awkward silence until Linda spoke. I'm proud of you, big brother. That took courage. Tom nodded. We noticed some strange things these past months. The way they talked about you when you weren't around. I'm glad you protected yourself. We moved to the living room, away from the ruins of dinner. Peter poured scotch. Helen made tea. Linda sat beside me on the couch, her hand finding mine. They stayed until nearly midnight, their presence a buffer against the enormity of what I'd done. After they left, I cleaned up alone, washing dishes, storing leftovers, wiping down counters. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, like a weight I'd been carrying without realizing had finally lifted. The digital recorder sat on the kitchen counter where I'd left it, tiny guardian that had protected me with nothing but truth. My phone started buzzing around 1 a.m. Daniel's name, over and over, then Amanda's, then Daniel again. I let them all go to voicemail, didn't listen to a single message. By dawn, I had 48 missed calls, 48 desperate attempts to undo what couldn't be undone. The voicemails, when I finally listened to them 2 days later, evolved from confused to angry to threatening to begging. Daniel's voice breaking, saying he'd lose everything. They'd have to declare bankruptcy. Amanda had already moved out. The grandkids were asking why they couldn't see Grandpa anymore. Amanda's messages were different. Vicious at first, calling me selfish and cruel, then calculating, offering to sign away all future inheritance claims if I'd just changed the will back. Then finally, defeated, asking how I could do this to my own son. I deleted them all. Tom came by a week later with news he'd gathered from the neighborhood network. Daniel and Amanda had separated. She'd moved back to Edmonton with her parents. Daniel had put their house up for sale, downsizing to a rental apartment. The divorce was apparently already in progress. "How do you feel about that?" Tom asked, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "I don't feel anything." I sipped my coffee. They made their choices. These are the consequences. What about Emma and Lucas? Their trust fund is protected. When they're old enough to understand, they'll have resources neither parent can touch. That's more than I ever had starting out. 3 weeks after my birthday, I put the house on the market. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Too many memories, too many rooms, too much space for one person rattling around alone. It sold in 6 days for $1.3 million, $50,000 over asking. I bought a condo in Inglewood, overlooking the Bow River. 2 bedrooms, one for me, and one for when Linda visits. Modern kitchen, floor-to-ceiling windows. Building with security and a concierge. Underground parking, so I don't have to scrape snow off my car anymore. Everything I need, nothing I don't. The Grandkids Trust Fund got its first deposit, $400,000, safely invested in a mix of bonds and index funds, growing steadily until Emma turns 25 in 16 years. The charities received their portions, sent thank you letters that I framed and hung in my home office. Daniel tried one more time, showing up at the condo building 2 months after I'd moved in. The concierge called up, asked if I wanted to see him. I stood at my window looking down at the street where he waited on the sidewalk, collar turned up against the March wind, looking older and smaller than I remembered. "No, tell him I'm not available." I watched him wait for 20 minutes before giving up and walking away, shoulders hunched against the cold. Now, 6 months later, I stand on my balcony every morning with coffee, watching the Bow River flow past. The water's always moving, always changing, never the same river twice. I've started volunteering with the Canadian Society of Civil Engineers, mentoring young engineers, reviewing pro bono projects for nonprofits that need structural assessments but can't afford consultants. Last week, Linda called with news that Emma and Lucas ask about me. Daniel apparently told them I moved away for health reasons, didn't want visitors. The lie doesn't surprise me. He's still performing, still constructing narratives, still unable to face what he did. But Emma's 12 now, old enough to have her own phone. I sent her a letter, care of Linda, explaining that I'm fine, that I think about her and Lucas every day, that when she's older and wants to know the full story, I'll tell her everything. I included my phone number and address. The ball's in her court now. I don't know if she'll reach out. Don't know if Daniel will intercept the letter or if Emma will believe his version of events. But I've done what I can. Protected myself, protected her future. Left the door open for when she's ready. The condo's quiet tonight, snow falling past the windows in lazy spirals. The framed photos on my wall show Margaret and me on our wedding day, Daniel as a baby before manipulation poisoned him, Emma and Lucas at Christmas 2 years ago, still innocent of their parents' greed. I don't feel angry anymore. Don't feel hurt, just feel separate. Like I've stepped out of a story that was never really mine to begin with. Started writing a new one with a different ending. My phone sits silent on the coffee table. No more missed calls, no more desperate voicemails, no more attempts at reconciliation that would require me to pretend the betrayal never happened. The silence is its own kind of peace. Tomorrow, I'll wake up early, make coffee, stand on the balcony watching the river. Next week, I have 3 consulting projects lined up. Nonprofits needing bridge assessments and building evaluations. Next month, Linda's visiting, and we're driving to Banff for a weekend at the hot springs. My life is smaller now in square footage, but larger in every way that matters. I built it deliberately, brick by brick, choice by choice, protecting it from people who saw me as an obstacle to remove, rather than a person deserving of dignity and autonomy. Daniel and Amanda wanted to erase me, warehouse me, forget me in some institutional facility while they lived in the house I built a life in. Instead, they erased themselves from my future, learned too late that some betrayals can't be forgiven, some relationships can't survive what they did to them. I didn't do this to them. They did it to themselves. I simply refused to cooperate with my own disposal. The snow continues falling, coating Calgary in fresh white. The river flows below, constant and unstoppable, carrying everything downstream, whether it wants to go or not. I finish my coffee, close the balcony door against the cold, and return to my living room where everything is mine, chosen by me, protected by me, safe from grasping hands and calculated manipulations. This is enough. This is peace. This is the life I chose instead of the one they tried to force on me. And that's all the revenge I'll ever need. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the suggested video. Thank you for listening.